Hello, everyone. This is the episode 2 of the Ground Game Metacast series. I'm here with Shuping, a YCS champion and a UDS champion. He pioneered Dragon Link in the TCG. And we're just going to talk about the ban list, the upcoming YCS, and a few topics, kind of get some great insight and have a good discussion. So,
Hi guys.
Hey. So one of the first things I wanted to discuss was just your initial reaction to the ban list, some of the things that came off, and some of the things that got hit.
Well, the Banlist was everyone was waiting for quite long for the Banlist, and then it's finally here. Honestly, majority of the hits, they did a very well job. Honestly, in my opinion. They like before the Banlist was announced, I was saying there are quite a few things they have to hit. Mine, obviously, Scythe. And then either any combination of the punk engine in forms of like fiber or chaos ruler or teleports. And then I think maybe nerf the current best deck like Sply and Tier a little bit, but not like kill them. So my guess at the very beginning, before they announced the list, was like at least limiting Mr. Mind, ban size, either put teleport back to 1 or ban fiber, ban either snow or curious. And then what was the last one? Oh, probably like limit super poly and swap rock. That's like my guess or more like wish list, which half of them actually hits in the actual list. It's a little bit surprising that I wasn't expecting they just straight ban Rolling Totem. That's a little bit too much in my opinion for how they handle Sply for the incoming formats. But overall, like I think they addressed every single problem except Mr. Mind. Like size is no longer really that a problem because there's no reliable way to access it besides the old Sanctum, which back then when people using Sanctum size, it wasn't that big a problem. They did even harder than I expected on the fiber, like the punk engine. Now like they banning both fiber and chaos ruler. I was surprising, but makes sense. Snow, yeah, that card should never be released. Honestly, we've been fighting Snow since it was back the beginning of this year. And yeah, so the only problem left is just Mr. Mind. And then it's how should I say? It's a big problem, but it's a lot easier to manage if that's the only big problem left. Despite it is a problem that should be eventually addressed. But not touching it, I don't know what Konami's thinking, but it's at least a lot easier to handle if that's the only one left. And then Tier, in my opinion, Tier just not even got hit. Like banning Snow is hurting like the danger variants especially, but Tier has so many different options that it doesn't even kill the overall performance of the deck in the whole meta. And then not limiting Super Poly, a little bit surprising me, because then it just like the format back before the list was Tier and Sply being the top two of the format, and then following by everything. And even between the top two, Tier is already like performing better than Sply. But then now like Sply got significantly hit, in my opinion, and then Tier was like almost barely touched. Only one of the variant died. So yeah, that's like I think I made a post on Facebook saying Konami, instead of doing anything to the race car, they hit a wheel off the bicycle. That's my opinion. That's my reaction on the balance. Because Splice didn't deserve that big of hits compared to how much Tier got hit.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Like after topping Niagara with Splight, I was predicting that Splight was gonna get hit in some type of way.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I would be okay with Swap going to 1. You know,
Yeah.
Swap is like the best normal summon in the deck, but hitting Ronin, just like, why would I want to play 3 swap, right? With no Ronin tones, like feels not as good.
Like
But
hitting
no,
swap, like limiting swap will still make like the old combo viable, but it would just significantly kill the follow-ups for following turns. But killing rolling is like almost the same as like hitting swap, because now swap has almost no effect.
yeah. And that definitely shakes up what Splight could do. I see kind of Splight more as like an engine now rather than like a pure deck. I don't think the pure deck is as strong without having the frog engine to kind of
Uh,
mesh with it.
I tried it. It's actually performing better than I expected, but obviously it's a lot worse than before.
Yeah. I just feel like without having that Ronin, like you just make the deck more susceptible to board breakers and like
Hmm.
Nibiru, right?
Yeah,
To
it's a
where,
lot worse against hand traps nowadays.
yeah. And then I guess, like you said, like Splight got shaken up a lot, but really like Tears, kind of like a slap on the wrist. I didn't know what they would hit. I guess personally, I definitely thought Snow should never came back to begin with.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
like the Chaos Ruler hit because there's still a lot of like cool psychic cards, cool psychic decks that can still use teleport, but we're checking the Punk engine and checking Ruler, so they're not
Hmm.
as strong. Um, I don't know exactly what I would hit with Tears in engine. Like maybe eventually, like we could see like the field spell go to lesser numbers, but I definitely think that Splite got hit worse. So
Yeah, like my original thought will be all the supply, no, all the tier cards are way too new, so they not like we know field spell like Pararino eventually will most likely go to limited, but that's not gonna happen soon. Probably won't even happen for another half year because they have to like resell the reprints most likely in next year's Megaton. Therefore, my thoughts were like hitting the older generic cards, things like either Bank Curious or Snow, either or is fine. And then in addition to it, for the other variants, limiting Super Poly and maybe even potentially Bank Instant Fusion. Those were my thoughts because these are the only powerful non-engine cards out of tier deck.
yeah, I guess what about the cards that came back, like the third Fusion Destiny, the third Nadir? Like those was big earlier in this
In
year, not as big now. Some things came back too, like Cyberjar, Substitute Toad. Is there anything relevant there
Well,
going
from the
forward?
release, the Yu-Gi-Oh is especially TCG is a game where things except Mali, everything which is at 2 really has no difference when compared to when they're at 3. Like, if these like the ones went from semi to unlim, if those cards went from like limited straight to unlim, it wouldn't make a difference last format.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's like the only like honestly the semi section should be reserved only for malicious.
yeah, I agree. I've heard that before. Like, yeah, that's probably the only semi-limited card that should be there.
Yeah, like I think Tanky is probably also coming back next list. Like it's like, well, it's not like 203 Tanky doesn't make a difference of any Beast Warrior strategy at all.
Yeah,
Desire has like some consistency issue. Maybe it's better stay at 2 or even just go back to 1. I'm fine with that. But like going back to 3, it's a little bit too much. But
yeah.
besides that, everything else a semi could just easily come off the list.
Was there something on your wish list that you was looking? Like, I know personally, I was looking to get the third or the second Gazelle. Konami didn't love me that much.
Um,
So,
Let me see. I personally don't really have anything. I just my wish list is like it is almost a full list of what should be dying instead of what should come back. Like all
yeah,
the ones, like all the ones actually got released from the forbidden section to limited are just like they exchange for fiber. Like O-Lion and Steam are just because fiber died. Like we had those cards at 3 of each before fiber was even released. Um, Substitute was swapping the rolling and then Cyberjar. Yeah, don't forget about that. Um, A pointer is a surprising one because I will prefer anti-spell or anti not instead well anti-spell with a pointer to both get limited.
Mm.
Like anti-spell is I think we were suffering the problem anti-spell during first half of the year, especially during the format during like on July during Nats, where if your opponent going first, set up like a negate plus anti-spell, either in the form of like a Baron anti-spell or later after Nats like Toad anti-spell. It's just almost unwinnable. And there are way few answers to that. Like you need something that cannot even be negated, and that also outs the anti-spell, which reboot was one of them, and that actually got banned.
Yeah.
So there's like very, very few things that can even like get around that to answer. Like I don't mind things be broken, like Mr. Mine, as long as there are answers or checks to it existing at in the same meta, which Mr. Mine is also a very good example. It's a broken thing. It's maybe overpowered that should be addressed, but it's not that hard to answer it or be preparing for it. However, things like a pointer, anti-spell, you just can't be ready for it. Like there's no answer to those cards, especially
No.
when they combine with like a negate.
Yeah. I think the game's like developed in such a way that like it's really hard and very oppressive if you have sort of like that
Mm-hmm.
floodgate of that powerful trap. That's why I was really upset about the red reboot ban because it was kind of like your only saving grace. I know one of the cards that I hated, like going against Flunders. I wish they would just ban Featherstorm.
Mm,
But
Reboot is a card I'm not surprised to see it banned anytime once it's limited. Like card is broken, card single card just like saying no to traps, and then that is indeed a little bit too overpowered that I'm fine it's limited. I'm not surprised I'm fine it's gone to zero.
yeah, I mean, you think we could get? Maybe it's just me being a little greedy. Maybe we can get two Harpies Feather Duster, just something else to deal with back row. Because the way I look at it is like,
Mm,
if I count the number of like degenerate trap cards on my hand, and then a number of real answers to it, it's not a lot. Like we have a lot of quick play removal, but we
yeah.
don't have a lot of like lingering effect removal. And Red Reaver was the
Mm,
only thing that stopped lingering effects.
I think um how should I say it? I think the game just need like because if we have more cards like reboot that can just kill the lingering effect, then I think they just like deleting the type of trap cards existing in the game at that point, right? They gotta at least give trap cards some power. Like I think Featherstorm it's annoying. I hate this card, but I think it's like an okay tool for decks that can't abuse it because otherwise it's just like trap decks just don't have the competitive power to compete with the meta at that point. Otherwise,
Yeah, it'll
like
be
we actually
interesting.
have a lot of removal in form. It just people don't have the space to play all. There's like three twin, three evenly, three storm, three cosmic. Right, that's a lot of cards.
Yeah, and maybe it's helped. Maybe some of the hits that they did with the list, kind of like I like what you said earlier, talking about how like yeah they didn't directly ban Scythe, but they don't have a lot of ways to access it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
tough when you're trying to like oh shoot, I might need a hand trap to stop their combo. I might need two or three of those. Then they
Mm-hmm.
also might have anti spell on top of that. But
Yeah.
then they also might have a negate, so I need a droplets or a ruler, and like that just mathematically just doesn't make sense, right? On how do you
Mm-hmm.
stop all of those things and then still play the game yourself? So they definitely did like make Scythe less of an issue. I mean, you
Yeah.
could randomly get sanctioned, but I think that will allow board breakers and those back row cards maybe to come back in
Yeah.
to the metagame. But we just have to see like how people like how popular these different strategies are. So I guess for the next topic, we've been having this problem in the CCG for about I don't know, 2 years at least now, and just how often should the list like come out? Like, do you think it should be timed?
Mm,
Do you think it should be like it's fine how it is now because we kind of have like the market waiting, we have everybody waiting, like just for these ban lists, and there's no type of organization there.
mm, surprising to maybe a lot of people, I actually do like the no sooner than system from like, well, technically the previous system we have, right? Because now it's just like in a few months they might as well just not even put that sentence there. I like the no sooner date system actually good because you actually know until a certain point there will not be a list, so you can prepare tournaments 100% based on like anything, just only product release. That's it, and then you don't have to worry about balance. Like this balance is the like will be updated in a few months. Like the system we have now is especially worse to combine when we're preparing for tournament. Because like before Niagara, we have no one have idea if the balance is just gonna drop like a random Monday before or maybe even after. And so everyone have to play test with the mindset of saying like something might get hit, might drastically change the format into this tournament. Because I think similar things happened during or before Hartford. If I remember correct, the balance before Hartford was announced like either the Monday or the Friday before Hartford. And then it just like in average, I think the besides this one, in the past couple balance, it's always like almost a balance per about 3 months per like every booster pack. That I think that lasted for almost a year at this point. So I was expecting a balance to drop like August or late August or early September, but then there's like Euros get involved. Oceania get involved, and then two YCS like at the same time the weeks during those weeks, and just make everything a lot chaotic. I honestly think just revert it back to the no sooner than system will be good enough because like they have their time to release it. They don't have to release it on the day they announced. Then players at least have something compared to absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So, mhm.
Do you like the OCG format, like the way they do it? I don't know if it's every 4 months, but you kind of know
uh,
like October 1st, you're definitely gonna get a list.
It's every 3 months and January 1st, April 1st, July 1st, and October 1st. And the ban list is usually announced like 2 to 3 weeks before the actual date. So around like I think this one we got so like for example the October list, people will know it about like September 10th to September 15th around that time.
Yeah, I
Um,
like that format because you can kind of like prepare for these events with the ban list in mind. Some people may disagree. What's like your opinion on that? Do you like the OCG format? Maybe the TCG should mimic that.
I mean, just talking about the balance, um, I think I will actually prefer how TCG works because it gives like more flexibility on the Konami end, where unlike in OCG, like starting September, no one just care about playing meta because everyone know oh the format's going to change, balance coming. Which sometimes is like, oh, it might be tournaments might get delayed, products might get delayed, things can happen, and then they Konami end was having no data to even make a list, and then end was giving everyone like a very terrible list. That has happened during COVID, which I think from the Konami's perspective, they definitely don't want something that forced them out a list. And then that fixed day system kind of do give them like feeling like that. I think that's why TCG are using the system as we have now. So me personally, I think having a flexible balance system is actually better for the economy end. And then, but it just in addition to I will prefer a no sooner than day, so I know until which day I'm safe to use whatever I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. The product flexibility, we've had different delays with
Hmm.
different sets. In recent August, what was it? Tactical Master set got delayed.
Yeah, I
That
think
definitely makes sense.
that was supposed to be legal for Nats. So Runic's supposed to be like viable actually at Nats and maybe actually drastically work the meta. But no, and it was being delayed till after tier and split.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then during those times, you just can't expect Konami to really give out a list like with changes like that.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's get for the real reason why everybody came here to listen in. What are the best decks right now? If you had to give a top 4 or 5 in any order.
I don't even know if
I have
there's
my
like
personal
even
list.
five. I don't even know if there's gonna be five decks, honestly. First one's definitely tier, including all the tier variants. I don't know. I haven't tested enough to say which tier variant's gonna be best or even better than any like other decks. But first one is definitely tier. Second, second is hard. I guess not necessarily the second. I'll just say the following. The following, not in specific order, will probably still be Splight, Sorso, Flunder. Oh god, the fifth's gonna be hard. I don't even know what's gonna be the last deck. Mathmech until the next set, maybe.
Yeah. Just into the next set
Yeah.
because Darkling Blast definitely changed a lot. So into the
Uh-huh.
next set.
Yeah,
Um,
until next set. But before the next set, I think yeah, those will be my like if you separate different variants of tier, it's probably just gonna be top five all different tiers.
yeah. I'm surprised you didn't mention Exo Sister since they just won Niagara.
I don't think. Well, see, the whole format is divided into tier and anti-tier decks, right? And among all the anti-tier decks, I don't think Exo Sister is the best at all. I think Flunder is performing way better at against tier specifically.
Mhm.
And then honestly, I think even maybe pure Runics might perform better than Exo Sister just in the department of against tier.
Yeah. Yeah, I think tiers definitely have a lot of like issues to kind of work through. So as strong as they are, they still have a lot to combat. Like you mentioned, they have the anti-tier decks, which I
Hmm.
consider like any deck playing shifter, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
anti-tier deck just like either decks use mine or decks use shifter.
yeah, yeah. Those are the biggest things. And then you have like a lot of the trap decks. They can really kind of cater their strategy to beat tier. So if tier is very popular, you can see random trap decks playing different cheeky type of trap cards like different dimension ground, Ice Dragon's prison, D barrier, obviously. So you have to deal with mine. You have to deal with these floodgate trap cards. Rivalry always been very good. And then you have to deal with the shifter
Uh,
problem.
the trap decks are see they traps ultimately are still just traps. They are still ultimately being slow and kind of bad going second. Mine just like performing mine shifter just doing almost the same job but way better at that category of anti-tier. Oh wait, I forgot that Rika should be instead of Mass Mech in that list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of
Yeah.
had at the top, yeah, like the tier decks.
Hmm.
Um, Probably if I had to pick a variant, I know towards before the list got announced, Pure Tier was very popular, playing about 15 or so hand traps. And then some of the danger variants. Like if you play Luna Lights, I consider it, but like playing how it was before, like you don't have snow, so
Yeah,
probably
not
doing
having
really
snow
well.
is a big um like hit to a lot of the tier variants. And Luna is definitely one of them that I feel it do rely on snow.
Okay, yeah. I know people are like abusing like spell canceller in the Luna Light decks. You can spit out like rank fours. So I definitely think that's going to be there. I just think outside of that, like I don't see how you can commit to playing a larger danger package, right?
I mean, you can have a board of rank 4. They for performing worse than a single snow in the graveyard compared to last format.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's normally no board, right? That's typically unbreakable, like with just kind of monster cards, right? But
Mm-hmm.
there's always an answer. Maybe it could be super poly, maybe it could be ruler, right? We're just talking about more. So whatever board you make can potentially your opponent can potentially have the out, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
snow having the extra layer
Yeah.
kind of like puts a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I guess I'm surprised you said Sword Soul. I know you for a while played Drytron, so I'm surprised you
Mm-hmm.
haven't mentioned like Drytron as like having 3 Ben 10. I think it's pretty strong. Uh,
I think 3 Benton is actually just absolutely not making no difference. Like 1 Benton and 2 Benton make a big difference against like the raw percent you opening it and then how good the deck can be resisting hand traps. But 2 Benton and 3 Benton like doesn't make a difference at all. Honestly, maybe even be slightly worse than before because now you kind of have to play 3 Ben 10 and just taking one extra. Like your engine become 1 card bigger, but it's not better, and then you have to maybe sacrifice one spot out of the engine. Like because there's not just like 2 Ben 10 to 3 Ben 10. We have preparation, we have alpha. So you mathematically went from like what 8 or 9 Ben 10 to 10 Ben 10s at this point. It doesn't make a difference at all.
so you don't think Drytron will like make any type of noise with these upcoming YCSs?
Not at all. I think that it's already beyond the time of for the deck after Ava got hit, and now of the like Drytron variants give me making me feel safe talking about the ending board because it doesn't matter you go perfection, it gets super polyed. If you go like Vanity's Ruler, it get dropletted, which everyone, well, at least every tier is playing it because of the water. And then let alone it's like a big like it's Drytron is definitely a big combo deck, which compared to other big combo deck in the format like Rika just performed like better overall and has ability. I think slightly better ability going second because it's a 1 card combo deck compared to Drytron's ultimately a 2 card combo deck.
Yeah. No, I definitely like Rika. I would definitely slide it into that top 5 along
Mm-hmm.
with like Sprite, along with like the shifter decks. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of like jumbling Exosisters and flows. And then I guess
Mm-hmm.
Mathmex for now. Gotta see, how things shake up. But I guess
Mathematics. Yeah, I think Mathematic is just like slightly just out of the top 5 in my opinion. Because it was decent at the beginning of meta, then because no one was playing hand traps at all, especially the tiers. Now, like there are way more hand traps existing in the format, especially when there are even people meaning DD Crow and the Beru. So I don't think Mathematic is like Circular is indeed a broken card, but even playing like 9 copies of Circular, the game a Mathema player don't open Circular, it just almost game against like an average hand from their opponent. And just that just like in a big tournament, you're gonna have those games where you just don't see Circular in your opening hand, you just don't have anything. And also going second, it's like um going second, the amount of hand traps doesn't guarantee stopping their opponent because how much better every deck can like resist the hand traps nowadays. And I just don't think Mathema can keep up with the meta.
yes. No, I agree, and I think they get worse post Darkwing Blast. That's definitely a conversation for a different podcast. But I was curious about your opinion on Sword Soul because that didn't come to top of mind. Like Rika came to mind because Rika got unhit. A lot of reasons you said 1 card combo. abusing rivalry, abusing Mystic Mind, tributing your opponent's monsters. It really just depends on how many hand traps or back row removal is in the metagame. But why Sword Soul? Never tested a
Uh,
lot of Sword Soul since
Sorcerer,
Fighting Pen came out.
yeah, Sorcerer is for the like before Power of the Elements announced or released. Splight, in my opinion, for the longest time is just like a slightly better Sorcerer. Honestly, it wasn't even slightly better at the very beginning, in my opinion. It's honestly the two decks per like performing and then like the roles of the deck in the meta are very similar. They just like control beat down decks for that. And then but Sorcerer, like the advantage of Sorcerer is it can go second because how broken how the tangy cards functions. And then now Sply is significantly worse. I honestly don't even know like which one will be better between Sorcerer and Sply after the Banlist. Because like they both now like the advantage of Sply compared to Sorcerer before the list was that it has better risks against other hand traps and it has better follow-ups. But Splice going second is a lot worse and also a lot worse at killing people.
Yeah, honestly, I'd probably look at the national list,
Mhm.
probably or replace the 3 Ash, and then just use that as a starting point because Rivalry and Mine sound pretty good against Tier, and you're probably gonna play a majority of Tiers and
Yeah,
see how
like
far that gets me.
I think mine is still like maybe not guaranteed, but rivalry is 100% like the biggest tool for Sorcerer to play against here. Also, Sorcerer is capable of running D shifter either main or side, probably side. So I think that just also the reason why Sorcerer is able to keep in the format like when to be one of the top like anti-tier deck in my opinion.
Yeah, that definitely crossed my mind a bit while you was talking about the shifter. I noticed
Mhm.
on the OCG they do play Prosperity instead of Desires, and they play the shifter in that. So at that point, are we trading Desires for Prosperity? Or are we just playing Desires and shifter?
I think in TCG just 100% playing desires for yeah. Uh Moye draw is still very, very needed for the deck. Unless a D shifter is already being applied, which the D shifter itself hurting the opponent more than the Moe draw. But in other situation, having the Moe draw with desires is always better than prosperity for almost any possible situation.
Yeah, got it. Got it. So the next topic is: have you had to like ever top or win an event? Well, I guess the UDS, right? Like
Mhm.
just something after a new ban list, or like where the meta was fresh, people kind of had an idea but no concrete data. A lot of people struggle going into these events without having that concrete data, which is fine. But I want to know if you had experience or can give some insight into that.
Mm, so pretty much how to like prepare for an event right after a list with no data. I guess that would be the
Yeah,
question.
yeah, that's the question.
Um, how should I, let me think. Well, for me personally, I guess that applied to every single tournament in different situations. Doesn't even necessary to be right after Banlist. Like I always just think, which deck would I, if I'm trying to predict the future, which deck would I think it will win the event, right? And then for a lot of tournaments, I just ask myself this kind of question, and then well, then the answer usually just pop up in your mind to tell you which deck will be winning the event. Like for Niagara or any tournament in postseason, my answer will be always tier. And then the second answer will be Split. Despite I missed like 3 out of the 4. But at the end, I think I think we have what 4 big tournaments.
Yeah, and
Doing,
didn't none of those decks win the events?
I think it
I
was
know
like
mine. I
Rika.
know they got
It was
close.
it was Rika won Euro, mine won Rio, and then I think
Okay, tier one.
Oceanic was tier, and then Niagara was EXO.
Yeah, I mean, so unless you count Oceanic, which is a nationals, but it's lower
It's,
than like
yeah,
a region.
but it's like yes, at the end the results always surprising people. I guess that does happen in the history. But if I like when preparing for an event and I say I think tier will be the best choice for the event, I don't think anyone will say that that option is wrong.
Yeah. No, of course.
Yeah. So that's just how I usually see it. Which that well, side topic. That's why I especially hate the format during that because I just couldn't give myself an answer during the time. Like if I like during early July, late June, if someone asking me which deck I think it's gonna win Nats and which deck I'm gonna use based on that, I will say I absolutely have no idea. That's why I hate that format so much. It's like just like an unsolvable puzzle during the time.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely that experience. Like Nats was kind of like the worst format for me.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, in general, I couldn't decide what to play.
yeah. I didn't get to play because I caught COVID on the Friday after landing, like when after went to Chicago. But my deck was gonna be mind burn because I just say I have no idea what to do. I'm just gonna fuck around.
So you look at what is going to be the best deck, and you prepare for that.
Yeah, pretty much. That's one of the strategy. Or the other way is like when you were like I usually build like several different. Well, I usually just build a list for like different decks in the format. Like I have like the past format, I have my tier list, my supply list, and even my math mech I played at the beginning of the format. Like when I was building those, I was like, which ones I'm worried about the most? And that usually gives like that you just tell which one will be the best deck of the format because I'm worried about it.
Yeah. Have you ever came to like a conclusion where you said, okay, like we know this format, we both agree, tier is going to be the most popular deck. I think
Mhm.
every player can have that in their mind. Now what is now the reason besides just liking what to play, what's fun or whatever? Why are we playing anything besides tier? Like, there's ever a time where you go in and like, I want to play the best counter to tier. Like, what are those like barometers that you put in place to sit there and say, okay, maybe I might take flow because maybe I tested it and think that TFC is gonna be most popular. It's give me a best chance to win.
I mean, those that it's like a how should I say it? It's like a flaw here, right? Because one deck is in theory technically probably the best. That's why you will want to be betting so hard on a deck that's super heavily anti it. But if that deck is not the best because of those counter decks existing, then the counters should be automatically placed higher than it and resulting everyone countering the counter decks instead of focusing on the original deck. So yes, you can make a bet of playing a counter to the best, which is playing, for example, Flunder against Tier and like a YCS. But at the same time, you can also just be part of the big best deck and play Tier and focusing on against Tier mirrors. I think that, at least for myself, give me better odds of winning.
Okay, because you'll play more tiers and like a top
Yeah,
cut or
it's
throughout
like
the tournament.
yeah, it's like ultimately yes, Flunder is probably having good thing against TRP specifically D shifter. But outside D shifter, I don't think the deck is like that much counter tier. Because the only thing really like M Pen is not a threat to tier. Because all the fusion monster can be
That's
summoned
true.
defense. And then Wing Statue is also just too small. and then it's just not doing anything. Also, tiers naturally have negates in formulas like Suliak or going second in formulas like before it would be Dark Ruler for Supply, and now it's Droplet for Dweller in the tier mirror. Like those cards just hurt statue. Like without D-Shifter, I don't think Flunder is a deck that good enough to be able to compete with tier.
Yeah. No, I thought they was gonna hit D-Shifter. Some people want a D-Shifter hit.
I actually do want it.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I liked about Sprite and why I played it so much, besides having the most testing with Sprite, is because even though most players would say tier was favored into Sprite, I felt like Sprite was favored into everything else. So if I figured out the tier matchup, and I would beat everything else that I'll play in the tournament.
Well, yes, in some extent, because a Spy going first, it's really hard to compete from the other decks, like the older decks in the format. But it's like all the decks in this sentence are actually weighted. It's like, yes, Sply from last format. The 30% of the Sply in the format is good against the 40% tier in the meta. But well, honestly, is it 30, 40? I feel it's even more. I feel like if I'm getting like a 35, 40 per 35 and 45% of the format, like tier being 45, Sply being 35, I'll be fine. I think I'll be confident with that data. And then the last 20% are the other decks in the format, which if you including those percentage in the sentence, you'll realize, yeah, the 35 Sply is having better advantage to the last 20% of the other decks. But which one is the biggest opponent? The leading 45 or the 20% random? I think the answer is quite obvious at this point.
I mean, but you do have to 45 too, right? You have to include the Sprite mirrors you're playing.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. At Niagara, I played 10 rounds of Swiss. I played 6 tiers and I played 4 Sprite. So I finished 82. I
This
beat.
is like pretty accurate to the data that we are providing.
It's basically right. I beat every Sprite mirror and I lost to 2 tiers.
Uh-huh.
So I beat 66% of tier players and 100% of Sprite players at that point.
Yeah.
Right. So no, I definitely think that's something like that makes sense, like 45 to 20. But definitely I wanted to keep in mind of the Sprite mirrors.
Yeah.
But overall too, I think like with your point, like you'll just be so much better at top cut because you'll see when it got to the high level players in the top 32, you're gonna see you're only going to be playing that 70% for the most part, especially that 45%. So you're gonna have to be well versed in the tier mirror if you want to win the event.
Also, it's like, yes, Sply has slightly better advantage against the other deck compared to Tier, but that doesn't mean Tier is bad at doing that. Tier is also good at beating those decks. It's just not as easy as Sply sometimes.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree, especially with Saliak. That's a pretty good tool as well, like against Flunder. I guess going into a new tournament or like a new balance tournament, how's your siding patterns like? So when I got top 16 at Hartford, that was a new Banlist. I went with a pretty generic side deck. So I used to play cards like Gamma, cards like Lightning Storm. That was pretty generic because I knew I'd play Sword Soul and Despia. Like those cards were decent or to good into those matchups, but I wanted like a clear coverage. You know, there's still like flow running around, still like different rogue decks running around. So do you kind of go generic? Do you kind of like build your deck? Okay, I want to build my main deck to destroy tier mirrors, but I have like stuff for everything else in the side. Or I have like a generic main deck and then have my hate in the side. Like, how do you kind of like think about it?
I think that really is it's heavily format dependent. Like at last format, like the doing Nats, or before Nats in Hartford, I couldn't build one because there are way too many decks in the format. And then honestly speaking, they all suck. but because there's not a single good option to play, whatever you end up choosing can lose to all the decks in the room. So at that format, at that kind of chaotic format, I think choosing just like the broad answers to things in general is probably better. But in format like before today or incoming few weeks, I think it's better to be more specific because the format is gonna be like a shit tons of tier followed by a bit of anti-tier decks than the others, right? And then the anti-tier decks are usually the ones that you don't even need to worry about. Because like if you choose the better deck, you just having the better deck. And then the main opponent is just gonna be like, I'll even say maybe the 50-60% of a tier in the incoming week. Like, but that's in general speaking. But for me, recently being playing tier, what I usually look at in the other way is like what I usually lose to. What's the lose condition for me as playing tier? Answers will usually be like, oh, I got de-shifted. I got my opponent Dueler resolved on me, or we grinded so long I lost in time. Then you know what's the problem, where the problem at, where to put the patch on. Then just play cards according to those. Well, either essentially your losing condition or your opponent's win condition, and then just try to fix that. At the end, you just make sure you're never gonna fall into a losing condition, or you can't have answer to the losing condition, and then fill your side cards or even the non-engine cards in the main deck with those cards that you needed into those situations. So that's usually how I do it.
Got it. No, I definitely agree. Um, so if you now, I'm gonna change same topic, but I'm gonna change spectrum just a little bit. If you were a rogue player and you
Mm-hmm.
like, would you put your party hat on right now? Like, tier is gonna be the most popular deck. Like, most people probably don't know what your cards do. Maybe you're playing Rika. I don't know. Maybe you're playing Earth Machines. Red Reboot just got
Mm-hmm.
banned. Like, are you excited right now? Is it a good time for Rogue, at least until the meta becomes defined? Like, would you say that to be
I
accurate
think
statement?
I think very unfortunate for a lot of the rogue player that could be potentially hearing this. But unless you have a budget issue, if you want to go to a big tournament and expecting doing well, don't even worry. Don't even consider rogue. It's like if you how should I say? If you want to like play a rogue, which meta wise it's a worse deck, and expecting to do still as good as the better decks in a tournament, then you should just play those easier tournaments where it'd be like you can obviously bring a rogue to local and no one will be worried about it because it's just a local, and local is probably easier. You're gonna face the other people playing rogue, which is the same thing. You go into the beginner ground expecting doing well, obviously. Or even you want a little bit challenge with the rogue, that you bring it to regional. That's fine. It's just a regional. But beyond that, if you be confident in saying you're playing a rogue and then you're expecting to top or even win a YCS among all the real meta decks, yeah, you are a reincarnate, which never happens. Actually, you at that point. I just think unless you have a budget issue, which I don't think you can play the best one you provide it to. But if like getting all the cards isn't like an issue for you, you just play the better deck. If your goal is to have fun, then you know what kind of things that give you fun. You try to find to win. If you just form the combo and be like even you losing, but you did the combo, completely performed it, maybe even a feature match, then that gave you fun. Yeah, go do that. If you just want to annoy your opponent and just fuck up someone's day, and you play Mind Burn, go for it. If that give you fun, instead of like more fun than winning, go for it. You just have to know which one make you like give you joy the most. For myself, it's winning, it's topping events, doing well, getting results. So obviously shoot that I can win, which just everyone have their own situation. If hypothetically speaking, your goal is to win, to do well, to get results in big tournaments to top, same as I do, then considering rogue is just like setting up difficulty for yourself unnecessarily.
It was
And
like
that's
playing the
pretty
tournament on
much
hard mode.
yeah. It's like, why would you?
Okay. So I'm gonna take my party hat off. I was gonna play something rogue.
If you want to play, if you go to like a decent sized local, might as well. Who cares? It's just a local. If you wanna like even going for a regional, be like, oh, I don't even care. I already have my MBI. You just test out this deck for fun. Yeah, go for it. Why not? But if you're gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna play this rogue deck and expecting myself to win this case tournament in my local, yeah, good luck, bro. You probably need a lot of luck that day to do it.
No. No, I don't like losing, so probably
Yeah, so
not, but
then obviously you know which option will be better for you.
yeah. I guess to wrap this up, we have a YCS Utrecht and YCS Ecuador coming in the same weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Train of thought is the top table is going to be filled of tier elements and some variant of Sprite still. We just don't know yet. I guess, what are your thoughts about those events? What are some things maybe that we didn't talk about that you were thinking about, you want to share, like preparation wise, tech wise, whatever, you know?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to either of those because I would need visa, so I just decided not to go. Second of all, those two, like Utrecht and Ecuador, are both pre-Dark Ring Blast. And then there's just nothing new anymore at this point. We know every single card pool, every single strategy, every meta deck. Without new things, those two YC is gonna be quite boring, in my opinion. Um, anyone have a brain, have played a meta, would just say, yeah, it's probably gonna be tier winning with like a crazy amount of amount of people representing the deck. I'm expecting almost a 60-70% of tiers in general, and like another 30% at most of the anti-tier deck in the combination of Splice Orso, Flunder, and others. And then the last 5 to 10% of others. That's it. And so yeah, there's this format. If you are a tier player or worry more about tier mirrors, if you want to bet your 100% just against tier mirror and against shifter, you can do well because there isn't, or and against mine, then there's like almost nothing else you have to worry about. If you're one of those anti-tier, then just focus on anti-tiers. If you want those others, like the last 5% of other random decks, yeah, maybe considering just switching a deck. You still have 2 weeks, or just thinking about not go to the tournament.
Yeah.
That's pretty much
Um,
it.
okay. Since we've had so many events, with mine being in the winner's deck, we have
Mhm.
2 events. Is it safe to say that finally we're at the time of 3 Cosmic Cyclone, like in the main deck right now?
I don't think mine is that big. I don't think that like mine is that big a problem to worry to worth like meaning 3 cosmic, because cosmic itself is like ultimately not that great of cards in tier mirror. It's good, but it's not like good enough
It's
to have
solid.
like 3 cop. It's solid, but that's pretty much it. Like in mirror match, like the biggest priority is not worry about solid going second, it's worry about the water, and cosmic contributes nothing to it. And
Yeah.
going first, yeah, you can hit their field, but what if they just do things without the field? Then the cosmic just absolutely not doing nothing there. So I think overall, maybe just think about what options existing in the card pool where it can not only like either directly or indirectly helping solving my issue, but also at the same time doing others.
Yeah. And I think for Sprite, as a pure deck, I think it's still playable. is
Mm-hmm.
just tougher because now you have to like your win percentage against tier. Like, okay, now if Snow just got banned and you had Ronin,
Mm-hmm.
then like I wouldn't even consider that tier at all because I think Spite is just better at that point. Because the only thing I worried about was Snow at the end of the day. But now we have no Ronin, so like your tier matchup is worse, and you don't have Toad, so now your matchup against everything else is worse. So I think it's not a great time for Splite going into these formats. Like I still think it's playable. We saw even in the pure version, I probably wouldn't play it. Like depending on how popular Spell Cancel is.
Mm-hmm.
I think runic variants or different combinations, there's still combo out there. It gets a little
Mm-hmm.
better with the new set. But as far as these events, Splite, you don't see doing anything like how you. What would your advice be for Splite players?
Spy players. It's hard to say. Like figuring out how to operate a spy card is, I think, like because killing rolling, the biggest thing is you're losing a way for your ending board. So figure out what you're gonna end it on is gonna be more important than anything else. Like figuring out its own combo is always better. The taking higher priority than focusing on how to stop other decks besides yourself. So I think all the spy players just have to reevaluate how to do things by yourself, how to combo yourself, how to even setting up interruptions and do everything. And after that, if you have the answer for that, because everyone have different answers after testing, you can worry about how to focus on against here. Like even meaning shifter, I don't think it's a terrible choice because how many tiers you like anyone could anticipate into a big tournament. So that's pretty much it. Like I
Yeah,
I'm not as good on Splite as I am on Tier, but I think that can still compete in the format. It's probably in my opinion, still the second best deck in the meta.
yeah, I definitely. That's why I mentioned like I reserve it. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely think you're gonna see Sprite in some capacity. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if people are gonna play pure. I
Mm-hmm.
think like it got harder to play pure, but definitely as an engine within the tier deck or within the like with the runic cards, there's just other like combos you can play. I
Yeah.
saw some like Melfi stuff, but I think Sprite the biggest things is like you said, having lack of follow up, and
Mm-hmm.
then not having that ending board because most decks would just die pretty much to double toad. You know,
Yeah.
have that same ease and like it's not worth it the payoff, right? The biggest
Mm-hmm.
thing is the Dark Ruler and Nibiru because like you choose to play around Nibiru, you end up losing. That's the problem we had before.
Yeah.
You lose to Imperm. I mean, but half the time if you open swap, you don't care what they have, right? Now we don't have that luxury, and then people probably won't be playing Dark Ruler. But
Mm-hmm.
so if people aren't playing Dark Ruler, then you can get really creative with your sprite combos because
Yeah.
that was the main bane of the existence was Dark Ruler and Super Poly. So people are now just mostly probably tier playing that Super Poly. If they're not really playing Dark Ruler, then that's a little better for sprite. So it really just
Mm-hmm.
depends on how, in my opinion, how much people are playing Dark Ruler and how much people are playing Nibiru. That really
Yeah.
determine how much success because the deck functions the same way. It's just you don't have that powerful ending board, like you said. So you have to get creative.
Yeah. Like I offend some people listening to this, but in my opinion, Sply is a deck that's so bring that brought a lot of people to the competitive height they were not deserved to. Like their skill and knowledge isn't that qualified to bring a decent Sply player to how they perform at the end. Which now it's actually that's not much a problem with because in order to play Sply, you need to be creative on your combo. You need to think out a lot more of how to deal with different interruption in the form of hand traps or perhaps after your combo. And that does require a lot more things compared to a bring that auto function deck before. So yeah, I honestly part like Spy more than before.
Yeah, I mean, And a lot of people have mindset like they say, "Oh, Tier is the harder deck to play."
Hmm.
I personally like. I really thought there was some technical play with Sprite,
Hmm.
especially going into a Tier matchup, like how to hand trap Tier elements, how to sequence what you're going to respect and play around. But I definitely see what you're saying. I don't hate what you said. Um, I think that like if you open blue and a normal summon, like I mean that's as good as you can get. Like you don't need to be the greatest YuGiOh player. You know,
Hmm. Yeah,
like
pretty much.
that's, that's as close to FTK as you're gonna get. Like opening Diva blue, swap blue is just insane.
Yeah, Sorcerer has the same problem. You just open Moye Longya and be like, yeah, you just autopilot here.
But yeah, I mean, I think we went over um, the topics that I wanted to talk about. Is there any like type of shout outs or any last words you want to say?
Let me see. I guess last words. I've not been really focusing on like YouTubing or any content creating in general, but I do have a little bit thing that I'm prepared because if anyone not know, I've been grinding wool points in all the different regionals, remote and IL recently, and then I do be taking notes for myself week by week of how really like shifting myself to adapt to the meta or anything. And then I think to some point I might release these notes. I don't know in what form, in like just a post, a picture of what the paragraphs, or making into a video, or honestly more like an audio or any shape or form. I haven't figured out that, but I am planning to adding a little bit of content creating when I feel like to. Maybe in the incoming few weeks or whatever. Maybe when Darkwing Blast season start, I will release the notes for part of the elements. That could be possibly the plan. So that's something I've been um, thinking about, and then I've been like slowly working on, but haven't really make a complete decision yet. So that's pretty much it. If anyone, uh, if anyone's still expecting or anticipating my contents, yeah, that will be one of the project. But that's about it. Hope once it's released, everyone will like. That's about it.
No, excited to see some of that content. And thanks for giving your insight with
Mm-hmm.
us on the Metacast. And hope to see you back in the future.
All right. See y'all.
See you.
Stand your ground.